What if I told you that some of the most beautiful thriving house plants you could possibly grow don't need a single grain of soil? Plants that can live for months, even years, in nothing but water. Plants that our grandparents grew on windowsills and old glass jars that decorated homes before fancy potting mixes even existed. Most people don't know this, but while we're all spending money on soil, fertilizer, and complicated care routines, there are plants out there that will happily grow in a glass of water on your kitchen counter. Plants with actual science backing them up. Plants that are actually easier to care for without soil. And today, I'm going to show you 20 of them that will change the way you think about indoor gardening forever. Stick around, because number 17 on this list roots so fast you can literally watch it happen in real time, and number 20 is so simple that you can start it with something you probably have in your kitchen right now, and it'll give you gorgeous trailing vines that fill an entire window. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, because we post new videos every week that'll save you money and empower you to grow beautiful plants without the mess and complexity of traditional gardening. So, let's get into it. Here are 20 indoor plants that thrive in only water, ranked from impressive to absolutely incredible. Number first, Pothos. The indestructible water grower. Let's start with Pothos, also called devil's ivy. And this trailing vine has one of the most reliable reputations in water culture. College students have been growing Pothos in water for decades, often forgetting about them for weeks at a time. And these plants just keep thriving. They called it devil's ivy because it seems nearly impossible to kill even with neglect. Epipremnum aureum grows enthusiastically in almost any light condition, producing long cascading vines with heart-shaped leaves that can be solid green, variegated with white, or splashed with golden yellow. But what makes this plant special is how powerfully it adapts to water culture. Take a cutting with a few leaves and at least one node, pop it in a glass of water, and within a week, you'll see roots forming. Within a month, you'll have a root system so robust it looks like an underwater forest. Here's why it works. Pothos develops specialized water roots that are different from soil roots. These roots are perfectly adapted to absorbing oxygen and nutrients directly from water. Studies on hydroponic growing confirm what plant lovers have known for generations. Pothos actually thrives in water culture, sometimes growing even more vigorously than in soil. You can start with a simple cutting in a jar of tap water. Change the water every week or two to keep it fresh and oxygenated. That's it. No soil to water, no drainage to worry about, no mess. The reason Pothos and water got forgotten by mainstream gardening is simple. Nurseries can't sell you soil, fertilizer, and fancy pots if you're just using a glass jar. But for anyone who wants beautiful, lush greenery without the complexity, Pothos is still waiting on windowsills everywhere. Think of it as the gateway plant to water culture that's been showing people how easy this can be all along, just waiting for you to remember it exists. Number 2, Lucky Bamboo. The water-living imposter Lucky Bamboo might be the ultimate water culture plant. And here's the twist. It's not actually bamboo at all. This plant with segmented stalks and tufts of leaves has been grown in water in Asian homes and businesses for centuries, specifically for its symbolic meaning of good fortune and prosperity. And it asks for nothing but water to thrive. Sanderiana produces those distinctive bamboo-like stalks so perfectly suited to water that you'll almost never see it grown in soil. Garden centers sell Lucky Bamboo in decorative containers filled with water and pebbles. And that's exactly how it wants to live. The pebbles aren't for nutrition. They're just there to hold the stalks upright. Here's what makes it special. Lucky Bamboo has evolved to grow along riverbanks in its native habitat, places where its roots are constantly submerged. It's not adapting to water culture. It's already perfectly designed for it. The stalks can live for years in the same container of water, producing new leaves continuously and even growing taller over time. You maintain lucky bamboo by keeping the water level consistent, covering the roots and about an inch of the stalks. Change the water every 2 to 3 weeks to prevent algae and keep it fresh. Use filtered or distilled water if your tap water is heavily chlorinated. That's the entire care routine. It's like having a living sculpture that maintains itself, asking for nothing more than fresh water in a place by the window. Number 3, philodendron. The heart-shaped water lover philodendrons, particularly the heartleaf varieties, are where water culture gets beautifully simple. These classic houseplants with glossy heart-shaped leaves have been growing in water on kitchen windowsills since your great-grandmother's time. And for good reason. They root faster and grow more reliably in water than almost any other tropical plant. Philodendron Hydroponic produces trailing vines covered in those distinctive heart-shaped leaves that can range from deep green to bronze to variegated patterns. Take a cutting with a few leaves and a node, place it in water, and within days you'll see root nubs forming. Within 2 weeks you'll have a developing root system. Within a month, new leaves will be unfurling. Modern research on hydroponic growing confirms what generations of plant lovers have experienced. Philodendrons develop robust water root systems that can sustain the plant indefinitely. These aren't temporary roots waiting to be planted in soil. These are permanent, functional roots, perfectly adapted to aquatic life. Here's the traditional approach. Use a clear glass container so you can monitor root health and water quality. Change the water weekly to keep it oxygenated and free of algae. Place in bright, indirect light. The plant will grow continuously, producing vine after vine of glossy leaves that can cascade down from a shelf or climb up a support. Philodendrons got forgotten as a water culture plant because the mainstream gardening industry wants to sell soil pots and complicated care products. But for anyone who wants lush tropical beauty without the mess and maintenance of soil, philodendron is still waiting in every garden center, every office building, every grandmother's kitchen window. Think of it as the plant that literally shows you its roots growing day by day, reminding you that sometimes the simplest approach is the most beautiful. Number 4, spider plant. The instant water. Spider plants have a built-in feature that makes them absolutely perfect for water culture. They produce baby plants called plantlets, or spiderettes, that come with their own tiny root systems already started. These babies are basically designed by nature to drop into water and start growing immediately. Chlorophyllum comosum produces long arching leaves striped with white or cream and sends out long stems with clusters of tiny white flowers that develop into those characteristic plantlets. Each plantlet dangles on its stem like an ornament just waiting to be snipped off and placed in water. Here's what makes spider plant propagation in water so satisfying. The results are almost instant. Take a plantlet with even the tiniest root nubs visible. Place it in a small glass of water, and within a week, those roots will have tripled in length. The plantlet establishes itself so quickly that you can see visible growth every single day. Studies on spider plants show they're remarkably adaptable and tolerant of varying conditions, which is why they've been popular houseplants for over a century. They thrive in water culture because they naturally grow in environments where water availability is consistent but not excessive. Perfect for the conditions in a glass jar. You can grow spider plantlets indefinitely in water. Change the water weekly, provide bright indirect light, and watch them develop into full-size plants that will eventually produce their own baby. Some people keep entire collections of spider plants in water, creating a cascading display of green and white foliage that never needs soil. Spider plants got somewhat forgotten as novelty plants became trendy. but they remain one of the most reliable, beautiful, and easy water culture plants available. And they multiply themselves for free, producing new plants continuously. It's like having a plant that does all the propagation work for you. Just dropping babies into your hand and saying, "Here, put this in water and watch what happens." Number 5, peace lily. The elegant water adapter. Peace lilies represent the next level of water culture. Plants that traditionally grow in soil but adapt surprisingly well to water-only environments. These elegant plants with glossy leaves and distinctive white blooms have been favorite houseplants for decades. But most people don't realize they can live long-term in water. Spathiphyllum species grow naturally in tropical forest floors where soil stays consistently moist. That constant moisture preference translates beautifully to water culture. The key is patience during the transition period, allowing the plant to develop specialized water roots to replace its soil roots. Here's what makes peace lilies fascinating in water. Those white flowers that people love are actually modified leaves called spades, and the plant will continue producing them even in water culture once it's established. Modern experience with hydroponic growing shows that peace lilies can thrive for years without soil if their water is changed regularly and they receive adequate light. The transition process requires care. You can't just stick a soil-grown peace lily in water and expect immediate success. First, you gently wash all soil from the roots, then place in water, changing it every few days initially to keep it clean as old root material breaks down. Within a few weeks, new water roots develop and the plant begins to thrive. Once established, maintenance is simple. Change water weekly. Keep the roots submerged, but don't submerge the crown. Provide bright, indirect light. The plant will grow continuously, producing new leaves and occasional blooms. Think of it as the sophisticated plant that proves water culture isn't just for trailing vines and basic greenery. Number 6. Chinese evergreen. The colorful water survivor. Chinese evergreens are where water culture gets visually stunning. These plants produce leaves painted with patterns of silver, pink, red, and cream that look like abstract art. And despite being tropical plants that typically grow in soil, they adapt remarkably well to water culture. Aglaonema species have been popular houseplants since Victorian times, prized for their tolerance of low light and neglect. That same toughness that makes them survive in dark corners also makes them surprisingly adaptable to water growing. The plants develop robust water root systems that sustain even large specimens indefinitely. Here's what makes Chinese evergreens special in water. Those colorful leaves maintain their patterns and vibrancy in water culture, sometimes even intensifying in color when the plant receives adequate light. Research on tropical houseplants shows that many Egma varieties actually prefer consistent moisture, making water culture a natural fit. You can transition a Chinese evergreen from soil or start with cutings. Stem cuttings with several leaves root reliably in water within 2 to 3 weeks. Once established, the plant grows steadily, unfurling new leaves with their distinctive patterns every few weeks. Maintenance is straightforward. Change water weekly. Provide indirect light and watch for algae growth in the water, which indicates it needs changing more frequently. The plant will continue growing for years, eventually producing clusters of small flowers if conditions are right. It's like having a living stained glass window that maintains itself, asking for nothing but fresh water and appreciation. Number 7. English ivy. The classic trailing beauty. English ivy brings old-world charm to water culture. This plant has been growing in water on cottage windowsills for centuries, trailing gracefully down from glass bottles and creating living curtains of green. And it roots so quickly in water that you can watch the transformation happen. Hydera helix produces those characteristic lobed leaves on trailing stems that will climb or cascade depending on how you position them. The plant grows wild across Europe and has been a favorite houseplant for hundreds of years. What people have known all along is that ivy cutings root faster and more reliably in water than in soil. Here's why it works so well. Ivy naturally grows in moist, shaded environments where its aerial roots cling to tree bark and stone walls. Those same roots adapt perfectly to water culture, developing into robust white root systems that can sustain vigorous growth for years. Take cutings in spring or summer with several leaves and at least 2 nodes. Place in water and within a week, you'll see root nubs forming. Within 2 weeks, you'll have functional roots. Within a month, new growth will be visible. The plant continues growing indefinitely, trailing longer and bushier over time. Traditional use involved placing multiple cutings in decorative glass bottles or vases, creating dense cascades of foliage. Change the water weekly to keep it fresh. Provide bright indirect light for best growth. Though ivy tolerates lower light better than most plants, think of it as the plant that brings Victorian-era elegance to modern spaces, requiring nothing but a glass container and weekly water changes. Number 8, Coleus, the vibrant water Thor. Coleus explodes with color in water culture. These plants produce leaves that look like they've been hand-painted in combinations of red, pink, purple, yellow, and green. And despite being traditionally grown as outdoor annuals, they thrive indoors in water almost indefinitely. Coleus species root with astonishing speed in water. Take a cutting from a parent plant, remove the lower leaves, place the stem in water, and within 3 to 5 days you'll see roots emerging. Within 2 weeks, you'll have a substantial root system. The plant continues growing vigorously, producing those spectacular leaves continuously. Here's what makes Coleus fascinating. The color intensity in the leaves actually improves in water culture when the plant receives adequate light. Modern hydroponic research confirms that many Coleus varieties grow as well or better in water as in soil, with the added benefit of never needing to worry about under or overwatering. You can create stunning displays by growing multiple Coleus varieties together in clear containers, mixing colors and patterns. The plants grow quickly enough that you can start from small cutings and have a full bushy display within 2 months. Maintenance requires attention to water quality. Change the water twice weekly with Coleus because these fast-growing plants consume nutrients quickly and can cause water to become cloudy. Provide bright indirect light for the most intense leaf color. Pinch back growing tips to encourage boushiness. It's like having a painting that grows and changes, refreshing itself with new colors and patterns every few weeks. Number 9, Beonia. The unexpected water success. Beonia surprise people. These plants with dramatic foliage and delicate flowers seem too exotic, too fancy to grow in plain water. But can be begonas in particular adapt beautifully to water culture and can thrive for years without ever touching soil. Cane beonas, also called angel wing beonas, produce tall stems with distinctive spotted or painted leaves and clusters of delicate flowers. The stems naturally develop nodes where roots want to form, making them ideal candidates for water propagation that becomes permanent. Here's what makes this work. Beonia grow as epiphytes in their native habitats, clinging to tree branches and absorbing moisture from humid air. That adaptation to consistent moisture without saturated roots translates perfectly to water culture, where roots get both moisture and oxygen. Take a stem cutting with several leaves. Remove the bottom leaves and place in water. Within a week, roots begin forming. Within 3 weeks, you have a functional root system. The plant continues growing, producing new leaves and even flowering in water if it receives adequate light. Traditional approach involves using clean water changed twice weekly, bright indirect light, and a container that supports the stems as they grow tall. Some Bionas reach 2 feet tall in water culture, producing cascades of leaves and flowers. Think of it as the plant that proves water culture isn't just for tough basic plants, but can support genuinely exotic beauty. Number 10, arrowhead plant, the fast-growing transformer. Arrowhead plants are where water culture gets exciting fast. These plants grow so quickly in water that you can measure the progress weekly, watching new leaves unfurl and vines extend with remarkable speed. And they're one of the easiest plants to transition from soil to water. Syngonium potum produces arrow-shaped leaves that can be solid green, variegated with white or pink, or painted in multiple colors. Young plants grow upright, then begin trailing as they mature. The growth rate in water culture often exceeds what happens in soil. Here's what makes arrowhead plants special. They produce aerial roots along their stems naturally. So when you place a cutting in water, it already has the structures ready to become water root. Within days, those aerial roots expand and begin functioning as primary roots. Take cutings with several leaves and nodes. Place in water. Within 1 week, visible root growth. Within 2 weeks, substantial root systems. Within a month, new leaves actively unfurling. The plant continues this rapid growth indefinitely. Modern experience with hydroponics shows that arrowhead plants actually prefer consistent moisture, making water culture ideal. They grow faster, produce more vibrant colors, and develop fuller foliage than they typically do in soil. Maintenance is simple. Weekly water changes, bright indirect light, and occasional pruning to maintain the shape you want. The plant will climb if given support or trail if allowed to cascade. It's like watching time-lapse photography in real time, seeing visible growth every single day. Number 11, silver inch plant, the lightning-fast rooter. Silver plant has one of the most dramatic and satisfying propagation stories in all of water culture. This plant roots so fast that you can literally watch it happen. We're talking roots visible within 48 hours and a full root system within a week. Dracaena zebrina produces trailing stems covered in leaves striped with silver and purple with deep purple undersides that create stunning contrast. The plant gets its common name because it can grow an inch in a day under good conditions. And that growth rate applies to root development too. Here's what makes this plant fascinating. It produces visible root nubs at every node along its stems. So, when you take a cutting and place it in water, you're not waiting for roots to form. You're watching existing root structures activate and expand. Within 24 to 48 hours, those tiny nubs become functioning roots. Take cutings with at least 3 leaves. Remove the bottom leaves. Place in water. Check back in 2 days and you'll see obvious root growth. Within a week, the root system is substantial enough to support active new growth above water. Modern studies on Dracaena species show they're extremely adaptable and vigorous, which explains why they transition to water culture with essentially no stress period. The plant doesn't skip a beat, it just starts growing immediately. Maintenance requires regular water changes every 3 to 5 days. Because these fast-growing plants can cloud water quickly, provide bright, indirect light for the most intense coloring. The purple pigments actually deepen when the plant receives adequate light. It's like having a plant that's so eager to grow that it can barely contain itself, showing you visible progress almost immediately. Number 12, Mona, the statement water plant. Now we're getting into the really impressive territory. Mona, those massive leafed plants that everyone recognizes from Instagram and design magazines, can actually live long-term in water. We're not talking about small cutings. We're talking about substantial plants with those characteristic split leaf, Monstera deliciosa produces those iconic perforated leaves that can span 2 feet across on mature plant. The plant develops thick aerial roots naturally, which is exactly what makes it so surprisingly well suited to water culture. Those aerial roots transform into powerful water root. Here's what makes this work. Take a cutting that includes at least 1 leaf and 1 aerial root. Place in a large container of water. These are substantial plants that need substantial containers. Within weeks, the existing aerial root adapts to water and new water roots develop from nodes along the stem. The key is adding liquid fertilizer to the water every 2 weeks, because plants this large need nutrients that plain water can't provide. Change the water weekly and top off as needed between changes. The plant will continue producing new leaves, and if you're lucky with light and nutrients, those new leaves will develop the characteristic splits and holes. Research on hydroponic growing confirms that Monstera species can thrive indefinitely without soil if they receive adequate nutrients. The plants actually appreciate the consistent moisture that water culture provides. Think of it as the plant that proves water culture isn't just for small cutings and trailing vines. It can support genuine showpieces. Number 13, Diphbachia, the bold water adapter. Diphbachia, commonly called dumb cane for reasons we'll skip, produces some of the boldest foliage patterns of any houseplant. These large leaves, painted with creamy white patterns and spots, look tropical and dramatic, and stems cut from mature plants adapt beautifully to water culture. Diphbachia species grow as thick stem plants that naturally drop lower leaves as they age, leaving bare stems below the leaf clusters at top. Those bare stems are perfect for water culture. Cut them into sections with several nodes. Place in water and they develop both roots below and new shoots above. Here's what's remarkable. You can take what looks like a dead stick, a leafless stem section, and within 2 weeks, it will have roots in the water and new shoots sprouting from the top. Within a month, you'll have a developing plant with new leaves unfurling. The transformation seems almost miraculous. Modern experience shows that Diphbachia actually prefers consistent moisture and suffers from the wet-dry cycles common with pot culture. In water where moisture is constant, the plants thrive with fewer issues. Start with stem sections 4 to 6 in long. Place in water with at least 1 node submerged. Change water weekly. Provide bright indirect light. Within weeks, you'll have a thriving plant producing those spectacular pattern leaves. It's like giving old plants a second life, transforming what looked like waste into beautiful new specimens. Number 14, Dracaena, the patient water dweller. Dracaena represents the slow and steady approach to water culture. These plants with spiky foliage and architectural form don't grow fast, but they survive long-term in water with remarkable stability. We're talking about years of healthy growth in nothing but clean water. Draca margina and related species produce those distinctive spiky leaves on woody stem. The plants develop slowly but steadily, adding new leaves at the crown while older leaves gradually yellow and drop. In water culture, this process continues naturally. Here's what makes Dracaena work in water. They're adapted to environments with inconsistent rainfall, so they've evolved to be extremely efficient with water and nutrient. In a water culture setup, they take what they need slowly and steadily without demanding constant feeding. You can start from stem cutings or transition small potted plants. The process is slow. Don't expect dramatic weekly changes. But what you get is stability. The plant establishes in water and just keeps living quietly, adding growth, never creating problem. Traditional approach involves using distilled or filtered water because Dracaena species are sensitive to fluoride in tap water, which can cause leaf tip browning. Change water every 2 weeks. Provide moderate light. That's the entire care routine. Think of it as the plant that proves water culture can support long-term stable growth. not just fast-growing novelties. Number 15, prayer plant. The humidity-loving water dweller. Prayer plants bring something special to water culture. Movement. These plants with patterned leaves actually fold up at night like praying hands, then open again in morning. And they adapt beautifully to growing in water, especially because they love humidity. Maranta leucanura produces leaves painted with red or white veins on green backgrounds. The leaves track light during the day and fold upward at night in a behavior called nikonasti. In water culture, this movement continues naturally, creating a plant that feels alive. Here's what makes prayer plants perfect for water. They naturally grow on forest floors and high humidity areas with consistently moist soil. Water culture provides that perfect humidity. The evaporating water creates a microclimate of moisture around the leaves. Take cutings with at least 2 leaves and several nodes. Place in water in a location with bright filtered light, never direct sun. Within 2 weeks, roots develop. Within a month, new growth appears. The plant continues developing its characteristic patterns and movement. Modern research on tropical houseplants shows that many species actually prefer hydroponic conditions because they provide consistent moisture without the risk of root rot from overly wet soil. Prayer plants exemplify this preference. Maintenance involves weekly water changes and attention to light. Too much burns the leaves, too little causes fading colors. The plant will grow steadily, producing new leaves with their painted patterns and continuing its daily movement ritual. It's like having a plant with its own personality, one that interacts with you daily through its movements. Number 16, Swiss cheese vine. The compact Monstera alternative Swiss cheese vine brings Mona-style perforated leaves to a more manageable water culture-friendly package. This plant produces smaller leaves with characteristic holes and splits while staying much more compact than its famous relative, and it absolutely thrives in water. Mona adenome produces leaves 6 to 8 in long with natural perforations that create that distinctive Swiss cheese appearance. The plant trails or climbs depending on how you train it, and it roots quickly in water culture. Here's what makes this plant excellent. It has all the visual appeal of its larger cousin, but grows at a pace and size that's perfect for water culture. Take cutings with 2 or 3 leaves and at least 1 node. Place in water. Within a week, roots begin forming. Within 3 weeks, substantial root systems develop. The plant grows quickly enough to be satisfying, but not so fast that it outgrows its container immediately. Leaves continue developing their perforations, and new vines extend steadily. With regular fertilizing added to the water, the plant thrives indefinitely. Research on Mona species shows they naturally grow as epiphytes, which means they're already adapted to getting water and nutrients from sources other than traditional soil. Water culture simply mimics their natural growing conditions. Maintenance includes weekly water changes with diluted liquid fertilizer added every other change. Provide bright indirect light for best growth and leaf fenestration. The plant will vine continuously, creating a cascading display of perforated leaves. Think of it as getting the exotic look without the overwhelming size. Perfect for real homes and real spaces. Number 17, Purple Heart, the instant success plant. And this is the one I teased at the beginning. The plant that roots so fast you can literally watch it happen in real time. Purple Heart produces stems and leaves in deep, rich purple. And when you place cutings in water, you can see roots emerging within 24 hours. Trade Scantia pala produces thick succulent-like stems covered in lance-shaped purple leaves. Every node along those stems wants to produce roots. When you cut a stem and place it in water, those nodes activate immediately. We're talking visible root growth within 1 to 2 days and a functional root system within a week. Here's what makes this so satisfying. You can set up Purple Heart cutings in the morning, Check back in the evening and see the beginning of roots forming. By the next day, those roots are clearly visible. By the end of the week, you have a fully rooted plant growing vigorously. The purple color intensifies in good light, creating leaves that look almost black-purple in certain conditions. The plant grows quickly, trailing or cascading depending on how you position it. Multiple cuttings in one container create a full dramatic display. Modern propagation science confirms what we observe. Some plants have extremely active meristematic tissue that responds to water presence by producing roots almost immediately. Purple heart is one of the fastest. Maintenance is minimal. Change water weekly. Provide bright light for the deepest purple color. Pinch back growing tips to encourage bushiness. The plant grows year-round without dormancy. It's like having a plant that desperately wants you to succeed, showing you visible proof of growth before you even have time to worry. Number 18, mint, the edible water grower. Mint brings something unique to water culture. You can eat it. This kitchen-friendly herb grows faster and more vigorously in water than almost anywhere else, and you can keep a continuous supply of fresh mint growing on your kitchen counter year-round. Mint the species, whether spearmint, peppermint, chocolate mint, or countless other varieties. Root with remarkable speed in water. Take cuttings from established plants. Remove the lower leaves. Place in water, and within days, you'll have roots. Within 2 weeks, you'll have enough new growth to start harvesting. Here's what makes mint special in water culture. It grows so vigorously that you can harvest leaves regularly without harming the plant. Cut what you need for tea, cooking, or cocktails, and the plant responds by producing even more growth. It's a self-replenishing herb garden in a glass jar. Traditional herb gardening struggles with mint because it spreads aggressively in soil, taking over gardens. In water culture, that vigor is perfectly contained while still giving you abundant harvests. No soil means no mess, and the water keeps leaves clean and fresh. You can grow multiple mint varieties together or separately, creating a collection of flavors. Change water twice weekly because mint grows fast and consumes nutrients quickly. Provide bright light, ideally near a sunny window. Harvest regularly to encourage bushiness. Studies on herb cultivation show that many herbs actually prefer hydroponic conditions because they provide consistent moisture and nutrients without the diseases common in soil. Mint exemplifies this perfectly. It's like having a farmer's market herb stand on your windowsill, producing fresh harvests continuously without ever shopping. Number 19, basil, the kitchen window. Basil completes the edible water culture duo with mint. This essential cooking herb grows beautifully in water, providing fresh leaves for months from simple cuttings. And because you can see the roots, you know exactly when the plant needs fresh water. Amum basilicum, whether sweet basil, Thai basil, or purple varieties, roots quickly from stem cuttings. Take cuttings from the top 4 to 6 in of stems. Remove lower leaves. Place in water and wait. Within a week, roots begin forming. Within 2 weeks, you have functioning root systems and the plant begins active growth. Here's what makes basil perfect for kitchen culture. It needs to be near where you cook so you can grab leaves as needed. Growing in water on the kitchen counter or windowsill puts fresh basil exactly where you need it. Visible and accessible. The plant grows continuously in water if given adequate light. Each time you harvest leaves from the top, the plant branches and becomes bushier. You can maintain the same basil plant for months, continually harvesting while new growth replaces what you take. Modern research on basil cultivation confirms it adapts well to hydroponic growing, often producing more essential oils and more flavorful leaves than soil-grown plants when given adequate light and nutrients. Maintenance involves changing water every 3 to 4 days, because basil leaves contain oils that can cloud water, provide the brightest light available. Basil wants sunshine. Add diluted liquid fertilizer weekly to maintain vigorous growth. Think of it as having fresh ingredients on demand. No grocery store required. No wilted herbs in the fridge. Just growth and flavor whenever you need it. Number 20, sweet potato vine. The simple kitchen magic. And here we are at number 20. The one I saved for last because it represents everything we've talked about today. Sweet potato vine is the plant that literally anyone can grow, starting with something you probably have in your kitchen right now, and it'll produce gorgeous trailing vines that can fill an entire window all in plain water. Take a sweet potato from your pantry. An organic one works best because conventional ones are often treated with sprout inhibitors. Place it in a jar or container of water with the pointy end down and about half the potato submerged. That's it. Within a week, you'll see roots emerging from the bottom. Within 2 weeks, sprouts begin appearing from the top. Within a month, you'll have trailing vines with heart-shaped leaves growing down from your container. Within 2 months, those vines can be several feet long. Here's what's magical about this. Sweet potatoes are storage organs packed with energy, specifically designed to produce new plants. When you put one in water, you're activating natural processes that are ready to go. The potato doesn't need nutrients or fertilizer initially. It has everything stored already. As the vines grow, they produce leaves that can be solid green, purple, or variegated, depending on the variety of potato. Some produce ornamental foliage that rivals anything you'd buy at a garden center, and the vines will keep growing for months, eventually exhausting the potato, but providing spectacular display along the way. This got forgotten because it's old-fashioned, the kind of thing your grandmother did on her windowsill, but it works exactly as well today as it did then. Better even because you can document it, share it, and inspire others to try. No special equipment needed, no expensive plants, no complicated care, just a potato, water, light, and patience. Within weeks, you'll have trailing vines that look deliberately cultivated, but cost you essentially nothing. Traditional use was to grow these in winter when outdoor gardening was impossible, bringing green growing things into the house during the darkest months. The same approach works now, providing natural beauty year-round from the simplest possible starting point. Think of it as the plant that reminds us that growing things doesn't have to be complicated or expensive. Sometimes the most impressive results come from the most basic ingredients: a vegetable, a jar, and water. If you enjoyed this deep dive into water culture plants and you learned something new, smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow and helps other people discover that you can grow beautiful plants without soil, without mess, without complexity. Drop a comment below and tell me which plant you're most excited to try. Are you team trailing vines, team edible herbs, team dramatic foliage? I read every comment and I love hearing from you. And if you haven't subscribed to Everstead Roots, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss a